this is Kimber. This is where I was basically for the first year of uni. And it's where I started going to church from. And, well, the whole reason I started walking, like going to church was, it was one weekend. My parents came down on the Saturday. And, well, my mum is like really into like big buildings and the architecture of it all. She basically saw St. Mary's, the big steeple, and was like, to me and my dad were like, can we go? I really want to go see the building. And because she's my mum, I said, yeah, of course. And we went in, and there was a really friendly guy, and I thought he was the vicar at the time. Turned out he wasn't. But I said I was a student, and he basically said how they do like a late night Sunday service, and said like I'm always welcome to come. And I was just like, no, like, because I was like a massive atheist at the time. And then yeah, it was like one Sunday night I was just sitting around bored. I think it was like a couple of weeks later, and I was sitting around like really bored, just didn't know what to do. So I decided to go to St. Mary's because I thought, well, why not? A lot like my mum, I was drawn to the building and its tall steeple, which had been rebuilt 6 different times, going through many iterations. After going for a few months now, I really wanted to understand why I'm going to church, if it's because of the community or if I'm actually finding a faith. I decided to talk to Lucy and Libby, 2 great people I met at St. Mary's, to help answer my questions. Do you go to St. Mary's because of the whole being Christian, or do you go because of the community and the people?
I would say that going to church and being there for God and the community are both like quite different things, but also the same thing. So I wouldn't say people go to church for the community, but they go to church for exploring their faith, and like because that's a place where they can meet with God. But also, as like in the same way, they go there because these people in the community push them in their faith, and they can work on that journey together.
I think a big part of why I really like church and going is the worship aspects, and worship being like singing, because I think it was the 3rd week I was going, and by the 3rd week I'd like met loads of people and become really close. Like, I know it's only the 3rd week, but everyone's so friendly there that you like make friends really quickly. And it was the point where I think it was the first worship of the service, and we were all standing around, and the fact that you're singing with everyone in unison, like, just builds up the music as well, and just makes it like cooler in a way, and just more like you feel more connected with everyone. And there was one song in it, it's called King of My Heart, and it's talking about how God's good, and everyone singing that together and me pelting it out because I enjoy singing. Yeah, like it felt weird at the time, but it was kind of like a big moment of me just going like, this is the church I enjoy going to, these are my friends that I have here.
When did you, or how did you figure out, or are you still figuring out?
I basically read my Bible and tried to figure it out that way.
Okay.
And tried to figure out like all of the reasons that I'd like left church when I was like 13. I was like, okay, these are still the same things. And just was like, oh, I think the evidence does match up, and this does seem like a good way to live. Like, people are like, but the 10 Commandments and this, I'm like, if you just look at them, they are pretty much guidelines to how to flourish as a human being. If we all did that, we'd be doing okay.
I used to walk down this alleyway a lot, going to like the Tesco's, and I always used to see it as kind of like this dodgy area, but now I just see it as like kind of a peaceful walk to St. Mary's, because even though like I live in a different area now, I still walk down this way to get to St. Mary's, and yeah, I just see it as like a really nice kind of walk to St. Mary's. It's really peaceful. Even though I'm like, there's no, like I'm quite an evidence person, so I want the hard evidence of knowing and seeing there's God. But through the conversation, I'm starting to like the idea that there's God. And so yeah.
So is the Bible not enough evidence for God?
I don't know. I would say for some people it is, but for some people it isn't.
Why is it not?
The struggle with the Bible is that, like, it's kind of, there are people that need the evidence of like, oh, I need to hear it from God. And the cool thing about Christians is that like, they have enough evidence, but they don't need like solid proof that there's a God, because like they believe there is, and if there's that belief, then that's enough for them. But yeah, obviously when I was talking to Libby during the interview, and she asked me like, is that not evidence enough for you? Like, I kind of need the evidence, but now looking back and like talking to loads of people, I don't think I do, just because like how much they believe in it, like it's just nice, and I think I believe in it too now.
Do you think people need to be Christian to go to church?
No, I don't. I think that St Mary's is a really good place for people who don't know who Jesus is to come in and be like, oh, I can actually experience and like learn for myself with other people around me, instead of it being like, oh, I can't be here because everyone is weird about Jesus.
Or do I have to be like someone that believes in God to then be able to attend church?
No.
No?
Well, what do you think?
I think no, but I think there are some people that would look at me and go, oh, he doesn't believe in God, why are you going to services and singing about God and
Yeah.
singing about how he's great when you don't believe it yourself?
I'm really glad that I came for the first time. If I didn't, like, I wouldn't have met the amazing people I have now, and I wouldn't be going every Sunday night and like actually have something to do rather than just sit around and just watch Netflix or something.
Would you say I've like changed since the first time, or?
You're not as quiet.
Okay.
As in, like, I think you're more confident when you come in, and you feel more comfortable there. I guess if it's the first time you've been into any building, especially when it's a very old-looking, very large building, it feels more like it's your like place too. Which...
It makes me a better person. Before I was a bit of an arsehole, I'll admit. I'm not 100% at the moment, but I really think it just makes you a better person.
Before going, I was overwhelmed with work and thought the best way to cope was to shout out everyone I was close with. Now going, I realise the best way to get through all the stress is to be with the people who love you, so they can be there for you and you can be there for them.
Meeting like-minded people that also believe the same stuff as you kind of like bounce off of their like kind of friendliness as well.
And lastly, I just kind of really want to know, from your perspective, like it's going to be such a hard question to answer, but obviously you don't have to answer if you don't want to, or just because you don't know. Why do you think I go to St Mary's?
Probably a community aspect, and just there are people your age. Like sometimes if you're just like exploring faith or like figuring out churchy things, if you turn up and you're like the only person there, you've got to be quite confident. Like if you're the only person your age demographic, you've got to be quite confident to stay.
I think you're exploring.
Yeah.
I think that you're interested in it all, and that's like so great. I think you're there for a reason, because otherwise you wouldn't be going. I can see the way that God moves in your life, even if you can't see it, which is like crazy because you don't see it and I do.
Okay.
But it's really great, and there's so much more to come.
Having these interviews with Lucy and Libby and like just talking to everyone else and telling them I'd be making this like documentary has really helped me answering my questions. And I think I know now like why I go to church, and it's really like, one, it's a mixture of things. It's the community, but it's also that I actually have a faith in God. And it feels weird saying it, but yeah, it's right.